Jacob and Esau.
The boy Isaac grew to manhood, remembering God's promise to Abraham, his father.
Keep my laws, and I will bless you. Your people will be as many as the stars in heaven, and this land will be yours forever.
Isaac married late in life, and his wife Rebekah gave him twin sons. Esau, who roamed the woods and became a mighty hunter, and Jacob, who stayed at home and tended the flocks. Now Esau was Isaac's favorite, but Rebekah loved Jacob more, and she hoped to see him the head of the family. Years passed, and then suddenly it seemed the time had come. For Isaac had grown old and blind, and very feeble, and he sent for Esau, saying,
"My son, I think I am dying."
No, Father, no. You'll get well again, I know it.
Esau, listen. I have only a little time. So go now and hunt down a deer for me, and make me a stew of its meat, the way you know how to do it. And I will eat it, and then, if God spares me, I will give you my final blessing. Go, my son.
Yes, Father.
Isaac had said, and she knew what it meant. If Isaac gave Esau his final blessing, then he would get everything Isaac owned, and Jacob, her favorite, would get nothing. So she went to Jacob and commanded him to take a young goat from the flock and kill it and bring its meat to her for a stew.
And you, Jacob, you shall serve it to your father, and his blessing will be given not to Esau, but to you.
But, Mother, that isn't right. Besides, he'll see that it's me.
Your father cannot see.
But he'll touch my hand, and then he'll know. Because Esau is hairy all over, and my skin is smooth.
Do as I say, my son. Your father will take you for Esau. I'll see to that. Now, here's all you have to do.
And Jacob did as his mother commanded. He killed a young goat, and she made a stew of its meat, and with its hairy skin she covered Jacob's hands. And Jacob brought the food to Isaac his father. And the blind old man said,
"Which of my sons are you?"
I am Esau. I have done as you asked, and then, if that is your wish, give me your blessing.
Come closer. Let me touch you.
Yes, Father.
Strange. Strange.
What, Father?
The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
Jacob trembled, but the next moment Isaac reached out and took him in his arms. And when Isaac smelled the outdoors smell of his clothes, Esau's clothes, the old man was sure this was his favorite son. And to Jacob he gave his final blessing. And Jacob went away, but then, a short time later, Esau returned home with the deer he had hunted and killed. He cooked its meat and brought it to his father. And Isaac said,
"What is this? Who are you?"
Esau, Father. I am Esau.
I should have known. I should have known. Jacob tricked me. And you too, my son.
Tricked me? How?
He let me think he was you. And I gave him my final blessing. I am sorry, my son. Jacob will be the head of the house. He will have rule over you.
For that was the law of the time. The blessing could not be taken back. Knowing this, Esau grew angrier and angrier as the days passed, and Rebekah feared he would raise his mighty arm against his brother. So she sent Jacob away to the north. There he remained for many years, and married, and prospered. And God was good to Esau also. He became the head of a family of his own, with many children and great herds of sheep and cattle. Then the day came, long years after, that the two brothers met once again. Jacob feared for his life and all his possessions. But Esau took Jacob into his arms and forgave him for the wrong he had done, saying,
Keep what is yours, my brother. I have more than enough of my own.
Coats of many colors.
Now Abraham was father to Isaac, and Isaac was father to Jacob in the land of Canaan. And Jacob had 12 sons. His favorite was Joseph. Jacob loved him above all his brothers, and had a fine coat made for him, one of many colors. And Joseph showed it to his brothers, saying,
Look what Father gave me. Isn't it a fine coat?
Oh, yes. Finer than anything he ever gave us.
That's right. Joseph always gets the best of everything.
It's not my fault.
Oh, no? Go away, Joseph.
You heard him. Leave us alone.
I had a dream last night. Don't you want to hear it?
Another dream? Go away.
But this was very special. I dreamed we were all in the field together, binding sheaves of corn, and my sheaf stood up on one end.
What's so special about that?
Well, all of your sheaves gathered around my sheaf and bowed down before it.
I see. And that means, I suppose, that someday you will be a king and rule over all of us? Go away, boy. Go away.
And take your fine coat with you.
One day, soon after, when Joseph's brothers were away tending the flocks, Jacob told him to go out in the hills and see how they were doing, and then return home with word of them. And Joseph set out as he was commanded. But his brothers saw him coming, and one said,
Here comes the dreamer again. Now's our chance to get rid of him, before our father sets him up to rule over us.
Good. Let's kill him.
No, I don't like him any more than you do. But he is our brother. We mustn't do him any harm.
Shut your mouth, Reuben. We'll do it our way.
But the brothers at last listened to Reuben. And when Joseph came up to them, instead of killing him, they only stripped off his fine coat and dropped him down a deep, empty well from which there was no way to climb out.
Help me! Please help me!
Then the brothers went away. It was Reuben's plan, though, to come back later and lift Joseph out. But in the meantime, a caravan of merchants passed by the well.
Help! Help!
And they hauled Joseph out and carried him away. So when Reuben returned, Joseph was gone. And he went to his brothers, saying,
What are we to do? What shall we tell our father?
Joseph's brothers took his coat of many colors and killed a goat and smeared the blood all over it. Then they tore the coat as if a mountain lion had done it. And they brought it home to Jacob, saying,
Look, Father. Look what we have found.
Joseph's coat. The coat I gave him. A wild beast did this. Oh, my son, my son. My Joseph torn to pieces. I will go to my grave mourning you, Joseph, my son.
But Joseph was not dead. The merchants had carried him to Egypt, where they sold him to Potiphar, the chief captain of the Pharaoh, all-powerful ruler of Egypt. But the day was to come, years later, when Jacob was reunited with Joseph, the son he thought he had lost forever.
Joseph in Egypt.
This is the story of Joseph of Canaan, who was stolen out of his homeland and was sold to Potiphar, a captain in the army of Pharaoh, ruler of Egypt. Now Joseph was a young man, as wise as he was handsome, for God was with him, and Potiphar was pleased with Joseph and put him in charge of his household. But Potiphar's wife fell in love with Joseph. And when he would have nothing to do with her, she grew angry and went to Potiphar, saying,
Your slave has insulted me. Punish him.
And Potiphar believed his wife. And Joseph was arrested and thrown into prison. And time passed, and it seemed that God had turned his face away from Joseph. But it was not so. For one day, Pharaoh's chief steward was brought in as a prisoner because he had done some wrong. And this man became friends with Joseph, and one morning he said to him,
I had a dream last night, Joseph, and it worries me,
Why?
because I can't understand it. In Pharaoh's court, there were magicians who could have told me what it meant, but here...
Perhaps I can help you. Tell me your dream.
Well, I dreamt I was a vine with 3 branches laden with grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I squeezed the grapes into the cup and gave it to Pharaoh. Joseph, what do you make of it?
The 3 branches mean that in 3 days, Pharaoh will forgive you and set you free.
And it was so. In 3 days, the steward was set free and restored to his place in the palace. Joseph remained in prison. Then one night, years later, Pharaoh himself was troubled by dreams, and his magicians were not able to explain them. Then the steward remembered Joseph, and he told Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said,
Bring the Hebrew slaves before me.
And Joseph was brought forth out of prison. And Pharaoh said,
Hear my dream, and for your life, tell me what it means.
By myself I cannot, but God will give Pharaoh the answer.
We will see. This was my dream. I was standing on the banks of a river, and 7 fat cows came up and fed on the grass. Then 7 thin cows came after them and fell on the fat cows and ate them up. Later, I had another dream. I saw 7 full ears of corn on one stalk, and on another stalk, 7 thin ears. And the thin ears swallowed up the good ones. Well, Joseph?
God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do.
And what is that?
The 7 fat cows and the 7 full ears of corn mean that 7 years of plenty are coming to Egypt. But the thin cows and the thin ears of corn mean that 7 years of famine will follow the years of plenty. In that time the crops will fail, and many will die of hunger, unless something is done to save them.
How? What can be done?
Let Pharaoh see to it that in the years of plenty, a 5th part of all the food that grows in Egypt is set aside under your great seal. And let the food be sold to all who need it when the lean years come.
And Pharaoh gave thought to the words of Joseph and believed them. And he said,